All right, as anti-Israel protests continue on college campuses all around the country, 2 states have shown the nation how to handle radical leftists properly. That'd be Texas and Florida, both free states. In the Sunshine State, Governor Ron DeSantis called the protesters at schools like Yale and Columbia, quote, absurd. Let everyone know, quote, if you try that at a Florida university, you are going to be expelled. Now, Governor DeSantis is also now taking a stand against men competing in women's sports. He is now suing the Biden administration over their changes to Title IX that would protect, quote, gender identity rather than biological sex. All right, joining us now is the governor of the great state of Florida, my state of Florida. Well, I am a full-time domiciled resident since January in the free state of Florida, Governor, and I gotta applaud you. Because the reason it's not happening in your state is because you have no moral ambiguity. You laid down the law. That's the end of that. You want to act like these idiots at Harvard, Yale, Columbia, FIT, NYU, UCLA, USC. Don't do it in Florida. It's not going to work out well for you.
Well, that's right, Sean. I mean, in a variety of ways, Florida's not California, not New York on all host of issues, but particularly on how you handle these universities. And, you know, these students that think they can set up an encampment or take over buildings, they don't have a right to do that. And they will be held accountable in Florida. What I see in places like Columbia and Harvard and the California schools is the administrators, the presidents of these universities are just too weak to do anything about it. Maybe they agree with what's going on, but there's no consequences. And so when there's no consequences, you're going to continue to see that conduct. I can tell you in Florida, there will be consequences. We are not running daycare centers at our universities. We're running universities, and people are there to learn, and their people are there to better themselves. We're not going to sit there and have tents spring up all around our university campuses. It's unacceptable.
Let me ask you about the Biden administration and their attempt to revise Title IX and the fact that Florida will sue the Biden administration over this, what you are calling an unlawful change. Now, it would redefine sex as gender identity and sexual orientation while also requiring schools to ensure that students use preferred pronouns. Now, let me see if I have this straight. So the Biden administration is upset about the use of the preferred pronoun, but they don't have the moral clarity to understand that the murder of how many Israelis on October 7th and the beheadings and the rapes and the kidnappings, they've been very hesitant to take a strong stand on that. I find that comparison pretty remarkable. They don't get triggered by October 7th, but they're certainly triggered by the use of a wrong pronoun.
Yeah, I mean, they're twisting themselves into pretzels, and I think it's because they're trying to placate the woke left-wing mob because Biden thinks he needs those voters for his upcoming election. But the reality is that he's shown no leadership in the aftermath of October 7th. We know that. When he condemns anti-Semitism, he talks about kind of the both sides type of deal, which is not the clarity that you need. But on this Title IX, we in Florida are not going to allow the federal government to inject men into women's bathrooms and women's locker rooms. We do not believe and we will not accept the idea that boys should be allowed to compete against girls and take away opportunities and things like athletics, which is the next thing that they're going to try to shove down the state's throats. So we have said very clearly, we are not going to comply with this. We are fighting back, of course, in court. I don't recall Congress ever passing a law along these lines. It's just Biden using the bureaucracy to try to impose his vision. But it's clearly bad for girls and bad for women at our schools and at our universities. And so we're saying no, Joe, we're not going to do it.
Governor, let me ask you about your recent meeting with President Trump, which I was glad to see, to be very honest, from the very beginning. And I had said it often publicly that I did not like the contentious battle that had emerged between two former friends and allies. I didn't like it one bit. I am glad that you both got together. whatever you feel like sharing, share. I'm sure there's probably part of it that was, I guess, confidential between the two of you.
Well, look, yeah, I mean, back in January, I endorsed him. I think it's really important that we win this election, and I reiterated that to him. We're going to be active in a variety of capacities throughout the rest of the year to help, not just the top of the ticket, but all around the country, and particularly in Florida with some of the key issues we have to deal with. But a lot of it was just connecting about things. I mean, look, he's a dad. He's got a kid going to college. I'm a dad. I've got 3 young kids in the household. He's concerned about how my wife was doing. Obviously, she had a cancer scare a couple years ago. So it was just a good meeting and a good conversation. But he understands the importance of this election. He understands the damage that Biden is doing. And I think you would see 180-degree different policies if we're able to win in November, which is important that we do.
Last question. The issue of abortion and legalization of marijuana will be on the ballot in Florida. I see that the Democrats want to demagogue the issue of abortion as much as possible. Do you think those two issues in any way have any impact on the state of Florida in terms of the vote in 24?
No. But I think both of those need to be defeated. The recreational marijuana is the most broad non-medical marijuana. It would be everywhere. The state would smell like it. We don't need that in Florida. The abortion amendment would be the most radical abortion regime in the world. It eliminates parental consent for minors, and it allows abortion up until birth and doesn't even require a physician to be involved. So vote no on both of those. But I think regardless of how those turn out, Republicans are going to carry the day in Florida pretty significantly.
Yeah, by the way, I just left a state that everywhere you go, that's all you smell. That's one of the great things about Florida. I get to breathe free air. Anyway, Governor, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.